What if everything you thought you knew about the Rat Pack is only the tip of the iceberg? For decades, their charm and charisma have captivated the world, but there's a hidden story behind the glitz and glamour, one that few have dared to tell. Now, Ernest Borgnine, one of Hollywood's most beloved icons, breaks his silence on the enigmatic Dean Martin. What was Martin truly like behind the effortless cool? Were there secrets only Borgnine knew? Get ready to uncover the untold truths about a friendship that shaped an era of Hollywood like no other. This revelation will challenge everything you thought you knew about the King of Cool. Let's dive into the bond between Ernest Borgnine and Dean Martin. Borgnine, a brilliant actor, first crossed paths with Dean on the set of From Here to Eternity. Picture this. Borgnine, fresh off filming, spots Dean Martin strolling onto the stage. Without hesitation, Dean turns to the audience and says, "Now there's an actor." It wasn't just a passing compliment, it was genuine admiration. That moment stayed with Borgnine forever, hinting at Dean's unique ability to recognize and uplift talent. But who was Dean Martin before he became a legend? Born Dino Paul Crocetti in Ohio, he had a rough start. At home, he spoke Italian, only to struggle with English in school. He dropped out, boxed under the name Kid Crochet, bootlegged liquor, and hustled to make ends meet. Dean's life was anything but predictable, but isn't that where the best stories begin? When World War II rolled around, he got drafted, served briefly, and was discharged early. Then came his turning point, music. His smooth voice caught attention, and his rise began. Enter Jerry Lewis, the unpredictable comedian who would change Dean's life. They met at a nightclub and sparks flew. Dean, the suave singer, and Jerry, the chaotic wild card, formed a duo unlike anything audiences had ever seen. But it didn't start smoothly. Their debut at the 500 Club in Atlantic City bombed. Skinny D'Amato, the club owner, gave them an ultimatum: improve or be out. Refusing to give up, Dean and Jerry reimagined their act. Their comeback? Pure genius. Jerry's antics, interrupting Dean mid-song, turning performances into comedic chases, or crashing on stage as a clumsy waiter, transformed their shows into unforgettable experiences. Audiences roared with laughter, and their chemistry became electric. The duo exploded in popularity, landing high-profile gigs, including The Ed Sullivan Show, cementing their place in entertainment history. They knew it was time to level up, so they brought in some of the best writers to elevate their act. It worked. Big time. Before long, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis signed a lucrative radio deal with Paramount, pulling in a staggering $775,000, a fortune in those days. But as their success soared, cracks began to form beneath the surface. Dean and Jerry's creative partnership was a lightning-in-a-bottle phenomenon, but it wasn't without friction. Dean felt the act had become too focused on Jerry's slapstick antics, leaving his music overshadowed. He wanted to branch out, explore new horizons, but their contract with Paramount kept him tied to the duo. Resentment brewed, and the tension finally boiled over in the most public and humiliating way. Imagine being on top of the world, performing alongside your best friend, only to have your face erased from the cover of a magazine. That's exactly what happened to Dean. In 1954, after the duo's extravagant three-ring circus act, a magazine spread featured Jerry prominently, while Dean was nowhere to be seen. For Dean, it was the ultimate betrayal. Frustrated and fed up, Dean made the boldest move of his career. He walked away. When his contract expired, he bid farewell to Jerry and Paramount, leaving behind the partnership that had defined him. Critics were quick to write him off. "He's nothing without Jerry," they sneered. But Dean, he was just getting started. Proving the naysayers wrong, Dean pivoted to his first love, music. And what a pivot it was. With hits like That's Amore, Memories Are Made of This, and Everybody Loves Somebody, Dean's solo career took off. Yet he wasn't content to stop there. He wanted to conquer the silver screen. His early acting career, let's just say it was a rocky start. But in 1958, everything changed. Dean starred in The Young Lions, a powerful war drama that showcased his talent beyond music. The film was a hit, catapulting him back into the spotlight and solidifying his place as more than just a crooner. He was now a bona fide movie star. Dean Martin was rubbing elbows with Hollywood royalty, John Wayne, Ricky Nelson, and the whole star-studded crew. His career was on fire, earning him a Golden Globe nomination and solidifying his place among the greats. Dean was unstoppable, starring in hit movies, producing some of his own, and becoming a true icon. But it wasn't just about the movies. Enter the Rat Pack. Dean, Frank Sinatra, and Sammy Davis Jr. were the ultimate party trio, effortlessly charming audiences with their smooth singing and jokes, lighting up Vegas like no one else ever had. Then came The Dean Martin Show, a TV masterpiece that became the ultimate chill experience. Picture this. Dean, suave in a tux, casually chatting with guests, cracking a few off-color jokes, and just having a blast. It was a hit, even though NBC censors were always breathing down his neck. Off-screen, however, Dean was a devoted family man. Despite his playboy image, he loved his wife and kids, and those wild nights. His friends say he wasn't really the heavy drinker he appeared to be on TV. Years later, Dean and Jerry Lewis put their differences behind them. It was a heartfelt reconciliation that allowed them to finally move forward. But as life often does, it threw a devastating blow Dean's way. In March 1987, tragedy struck when his son, Dean Paul, died in a plane crash while serving in the Air National Guard. The loss devastated Dean. He fell into a deep depression, and for comfort, he turned to alcohol. His close friend, Frank Sinatra, tried to lift his spirits by taking him on tour, but it was like trying to douse a fire with gasoline. Dean's grief consumed him, and his struggles worsened. Years of chain smoking finally caught up with him in 1993 when doctors diagnosed him with lung cancer. Surgery was an option, but Dean, ever the stubborn soul, chose not to undergo it. He withdrew from the public eye, spending his final years with his family, slowly fading from the spotlight. On Christmas Day 1995 at 78, the world lost a legend. Even the Las Vegas Strip dimmed its lights in his honor. From a boy who dropped out of school to a global icon, Dean's journey was nothing short of extraordinary. But it was the friendship he shared with Ernest Borgnine that showed us the real Dean. A loyal friend, far beyond the suave image and Rat Pack swagger. Let's shift gears and talk about Ernie, born Hermes Ephron Borgnine, a man who came from humble beginnings. Raised in a working-class family in Connecticut by Italian immigrants, Ernie's early life wasn't exactly glamorous. After high school, he did what many young Americans did back then: joined the Navy. And when World War II came knocking, he was right back in uniform, serving his country. But once the war was over, Ernie found himself adrift, unsure of what to do next. Factory work? Not for him. It didn't take long for him to realize that wasn't the path. Luckily for Ernie, his mom had a better idea. One day, as he was making everyone laugh, she said, "You're always fooling around in front of people. Why not get paid for it?" Most kids would have rolled their eyes, but for Ernie, it was a revelation. Sitting at the kitchen table, it was like a light bulb flickered on. Fast forward 10 years, and Grace Kelly was handing him an Oscar. His journey began at the Randall School of Drama in Hartford, before moving to the Barter Theater in Virginia, which was a bit of a gem in the Great Depression. People could trade apples or eggs for tickets. Ernie's first role came in 1947 in State of the Union. It wasn't a huge part, but the audience loved him. He kept building from there, landing a role in Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie as the gentleman caller, proving he had the chops for drama. By 1949, he had his sights set on Broadway, debuting in Harvey as a nurse. Yes, a nurse. Then came TV, starting with Captain Video and his Video Rangers. It might sound cheesy, but it opened the door to bigger things. Ernie appeared in everything from Goodyear Television Playhouse to Laramie and Fireside Theater. Hollywood was calling soon enough, and in 1951, he landed his first film role in The Whistle at Eaton Falls. But it was his role as the nasty Sergeant Fatso Judson in From Here to Eternity that put him on the map. The film won Best Picture, and Ernie was officially a star. Borgnine wasn't afraid to play the bad guy. He took on villain roles in films like Johnny Grit and Vera Cruz, but 1955 was his year. He starred in Marty, portraying a shy, lovable butcher, and the world fell for him. The film swept the Cannes Film Festival, and Ernie beat out heavyweights like Frank Sinatra and James Dean to take home the Oscar, along with a Golden Globe and a BAFTA. Quite the glow-up from his Captain Video days, right? But the story didn't end there. TV stardom called again in 1962 when Ernie signed on to McHale's Navy, a World War II sitcom about a ragtag crew of misfits. Ernie played the gruff, yet lovable Captain Quentin MacHale, who somehow kept the chaos in check. The show was an instant hit, landing in the top 30 in its first season, and Ernie even got an Emmy nomination. But after 4 seasons, the joke began to feel tired, and the show wrapped up in 1966. Ernest Borgnine's career didn't slow down. If anything, it picked up speed. Over the next 30 years, he was everywhere. Big screen hits like The Dirty Dozen, The Poseidon Adventure, and Escape from New York solidified his status as a Hollywood icon. He even played Dutch in The Wild Bunch, a Western with a deep moral undercurrent. Ernie once said, "Every picture should have a moral." Back in the day, the bad guys always got what was coming to them. Nowadays, it feels like they're running the show, he'd quip. Preach, Ernie. And let's not forget his TV dominance. Ernie owned the small screen, appearing in Little House on the Prairie, Magnum P.I., The Love Boat, and Touched by an Angel. Flip through channels, and there was his face. Everywhere. At that point, Borgnine was Hollywood's go-to guy for everything. Westerns, dramas, comedies, you name it, he nailed it. Even as he got older, he stayed busy, making memorable appearances in the final episodes of ER, proving he was the legend who never quit. In 1983, Ernie landed a co-starring role on Airwolf, a hit show at Universal Studios, alongside Jan Michael Vincent. Producer Donald P. Belisario invited him after seeing his performance in a Magnum P.I. episode, and Borgnine didn't hesitate to accept the role of Dominic Santini, a lovable helicopter pilot. The show was a smash, but behind the scenes, Ernie was pushing himself hard. The grueling schedule, combined with his younger co-star, could wear anyone out. In 1986, CBS ended the show, giving Borgnine a much-needed break, though you'd never know it by looking at his next move. In 1989, Ernie headed to Namibia to film Laser Mission with Brandon Lee. The film debuted in 1990, but despite not being an award contender, Borgnine's work ethic never faltered. By 1995, he was back on TV, playing Manny Cordoba, the world's most lovable doorman, on The Single Guy. Co-star Jonathan Silverman joked that Borgnine had more energy than the entire cast combined, first on set, last to leave, and cracking jokes between takes. Then, in 1996, he flexed his adventurous side in Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonders, a quirky fantasy film where he narrated a story about a cursed monkey toy stolen from Merlin. The film didn't make waves at first, but over time it developed a cult following, especially after being roasted on Mystery Science Theater 3000. That same year, Ernie hit the road for a nationwide bus tour, meeting fans and exploring the country. His journey even became the subject of a 1997 documentary, Ernest Borgnine on the Bus. In between all this, he dedicated time to visiting VA hospitals as part of the National Salute to Hospitalized Veterans. By 1997, Borgnine was back in uniform as Rear Admiral Quentin MacHale in MacHale's Navy, passing the torch and the name to Tom Arnold, who played his son. A year later, Ernie popped up in the comedy Basketball as a hilariously ridiculous wealthy entrepreneur. But perhaps his most iconic late-career role was as Mermaid Man in SpongeBob SquarePants. Paired with his MacHale's Navy buddy, Tim Conway, as Barnacle Boy, Borgnine completely embraced his role as a retired superhero. Kids loved him, and honestly, so did adults. After his passing, Nickelodeon honored him by airing all his Mermaid Man episodes, a touching tribute to a beloved legend. In 2007, at the age of 90, Ernest Borgnine took on the role of a grandfather, reconnecting with his estranged granddaughter in the Hallmark movie A Grandpa for Christmas. The heartwarming performance earned him a Golden Globe nomination, making him the oldest nominee in history. But Ernie wasn't just about acting. He also wrote his autobiography, Ernie. It wasn't your typical memoir. It was more like sitting down with a friend and sharing incredible stories from a lifetime of experiences. In 2009, Borgnine proved he still had the chops, appearing in the final season of ER in a heartbreaking role as a husband watching his wife pass away. His performance struck a chord, earning him an Emmy nomination, his first in nearly 3 decades. At 92, he was back at it again, starring in Harvest Moon and showing that age was just a number. His film career wrapped up with style in 2010 with a fun cameo on Saturday Night Live, appearing in the action film Red, and completing his final project, The Man Who Shook the Hand of Vicente Fernandez, in 2011. Through it all, Borgnine stayed as charming and humorous as ever, never losing his love for his fans. If anyone deserved the title of unstoppable, it was Ernest Borgnine. Now here's a story that sums up both his charm and his humility. After filming a scene, Borgnine overheard Dean Martin say, "Now there's an actor," pointing to him. Dean Martin, the king of cool, casually handing out that kind of praise was a moment Borgnine would never forget. It made his week, maybe even his year. He described Dean as the most wonderful man, and marveled at how easy it was to connect with him. Their instant bond blossomed into a lifelong friendship. Dean Martin wasn't just the suave, martini-sipping star we all knew. Off camera, he was grounded, generous, and had a way of making people feel valued. Despite his massive fame, Martin never sought the spotlight for himself. Instead, he shared it, lifting others with his kindness and humor. Hollywood is often a battlefield of egos, but Dean Martin was the exception. With a wink, a drink, and a well-timed joke, he showed the world how it's done. Borgnine's memories of Dean aren't just a collection of Hollywood stories. They highlight the genuine heart of a man who could change your life with a few kind words. He wasn't just another celebrity, he was the real deal, the friend everyone wished they had. Dean made you feel like you mattered, and his generosity was never for show. Whether you needed advice, a laugh, or just someone to have your back, Dean was the guy. Behind that iconic smile, though, Martin carried his own struggles. Struggles few ever saw. But those who were close to him, like Borgnine, got a glimpse of the real man. And that's what made their bond so special. Dean wasn't just a friend. He was a person who made everything feel a little less heavy, no matter what life threw your way. Dean Martin's true superpower wasn't just his talent. It was his ability to stay grounded when everything around him screamed celebrity. Fans adored him, peers respected him, but it was his kindness that truly set him apart. Borgnine witnessed it all, the glitz, the humility, and the surprising moments when Martin would just be a regular guy with a big heart. Their friendship wasn't a typical Hollywood "we work together so we're friends" deal. This was the real thing. Borgnine was the hard-working, serious guy, while Martin was the personification of effortless cool. They couldn't have been more different, yet they clicked, making their bond one built on trust, laughter, and authenticity, something rare in Hollywood or anywhere. In the end, Borgnine's stories remind us that underneath all the fame, Martin was just a man who knew how to be a great friend, a decent human, and someone we all wish we could have shared a drink with. Their friendship wasn't just another Hollywood story. It was special. They stuck together through everything, even in the face of unimaginable pain. When Martin lost his son, Dean Paul Jr., in a plane crash, Borgnine didn't just offer empty words. He showed up, offering real support, probably with a firm shoulder and maybe a bottle of something strong, because sometimes that's what friends do. But it wasn't just about the hard times. When Borgnine hit career slumps and had his doubts, Martin was his biggest cheerleader. He didn't wear a cheerleader outfit, but he'd show up, remind Borgnine how talented he was, and shake him out of his doubts. "Snap out of it. You're amazing," was his style. The best part? These two knew how to laugh. Really laugh. Whether they were on set or hitting the golf course, they shared the simple joys of life. Their banter could have been its own comedy show, and you better believe they made life on set far more entertaining for everyone around them. What made their bond so rare was how real it was. They saw through the Hollywood facade and focused on the essence of who the other person truly was. No ego, no fake smiles, just two guys who genuinely cared about each other. In a world full of photo ops and surface-level connections, their friendship was as rare as a clean car in LA after it rains. What truly matters when fame and fortune fade away? Borgnine and Martin's friendship is a powerful reminder that it's the people who stand by you through both the tough times and the laughs that make all the difference. Because when life deals its worst, whether it's a heartbreaking loss or a bad round of golf, you need someone who has your back.